All right, ladies and gentlemen, today is another good day the Lord have made. We thank God for everything, right? So, like I said, as usual, we need to commit everything to the hands of God because it's God that gives wisdom, right? We wake up this morning, you don't know how you slept when you woke up. So, with that alone, you must thank God. Right. God is touching every one of us. He's touching all our lives. There's no one that said God is not doing wonderful things in his or her life. As long as you are able to sleep and wake up with that alone, you thank God. Right. Okay, guys. Today we are going to discuss about the ISAT. Like I said, ISAT is such a very important component as far as your vocational study is concerned. That is why it's called vocational, right? It's not theoretical. The practical aspect of it must be incorporated. It must be done to make it a whole, right? So by virtue of that, I will urge you to take seriously your ISET. Don't joke with it. Because when you see the weighting of the ISET, it's 15 marks, 1 5, right? 15%. It's not 15 marks, 15%, right? 15% of your total mark at the end of the year. And if you miss that, I'm telling you, you are gone, right? And you must pass it. If you don't have a match, you got a benchmark, which is 50%. If you don't have that 50%, you will not be eligible to write your exam. So take it serious, right? So luckily, your ISET is not something that is difficult, and it's what we've been doing for the past years. Perhaps if you got somebody that have passed through, that was doing level 2 last year, might be you can liaise with that person, then you could possibly get an assistant from that person because this is what we've been doing for the past 3 years, right? Okay. Having said that, let's proceed. I hope this thing is not going to mess me up because my system these days, most especially my PDF, is giving me problem. But let's see what is going to happen now. I hope it's in good condition. Oh man, they've started again. Right. It have started again. All right. Okay. So as it is, you just need to go out and investigate three businesses, right? Whereby you need to go out there and pose some questions. It's an investigation. You are going to investigate the business, but don't go there and behave like a CIA to the business owner. Otherwise, the business owner will not be happy with you, right? You just come in, you introduce yourself to the business owner, you say, whatever you're going to ask is for academic purpose, it's for your studies, right? So you are not there to implicate the owners because some of the businesses here are not registered. When you start asking them, are you registered? Then their countenance will change. So you mustn't ask those type of questions, right? Although it's there, but you just pose the question in a way. You understand what I mean? So it goes like this. So the asset by way of description, is the asset consists of two subtasks, right? So, two what? Subtasks. The task one requires students to conduct an investigation on product, right? I think that investigation, if I were the one that set up this question, I would remove investigation because it's gonna make it scary. Could have said survey, right? To carry out a survey on product and services of existing what? Entrepreneurial businesses within the scope of their vocational program, within the perimeter of your vocational program. You know what I mean by perimeter? Within the dimension, right, of your vocational program. Do you understand what I mean? Right. Then subtask 2 require you as student to use the information gathered in subtask 1 to identify a business opportunity or an idea, right? Business idea, business and opportunity as you may like it, right? Then design a market survey questionnaire. Oh man, you're still going to design questionnaires. By now, you know how to design questionnaires, right? Remember, you did that in your first task, right? Don't be distracted, focus. You must always, you don't look somewhere else. You must look at me, right? Then, from the information from your investigation, you need to use the information collected to design a questionnaire, right? And you know how to design a questionnaire. Remember, I gave you a template on the requirement of a good questionnaire. So you're gonna use that template as a guideline to know what you need to include in your questionnaire design. Right. So you design a market survey questionnaire, then you conduct a survey and analyze the result. You see, guys, the job, what you need to do, it contains a lot. It's a lot of work. So you need to start it on time, right? It contains a lot. For example, you need to, first of all, go out to investigate, right? After the investigation, you need to design a questionnaire, right? The questionnaire needs to be distributed to your peers, right? Then your peers are going to respond to those questionnaires. Then you need to go back and collect the questionnaires. Thereafter, you need to analyze and produce a report. You see, in a nutshell, that is what you need to do, right? It's okay, let's go. Then the resources required. We don't need to talk much about this, but yeah, let's talk about the resources. This thing is frozen now. Okay. Right, in terms of the resources, let me just use this opportunity to take it up. In terms of the resources, what do you need? Right, infrastructure, in terms of the facilities, simulation room. You know, sim room. Perhaps you may be required to use a sim room. You know, a sim room upstairs. They know, you know, sim room. You know it. Yeah. What is the meaning of sim room? Simulation. Simulation room. What is simulation? Yeah, you try to where you do things as if it is real, but not real. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah, simulation. Then computer, you need computer to type your work, perhaps, right? Then equipment that you need, computer room, I mean, where you need to type your work. Obviously, you need to type out if you want your work to be neat, right? Because there is a certain mark allocation for neatness. If you use your hand to write it, then you lose 2 marks, right? I wouldn't hesitate to give you 0, right? But if you could go and type it, then you score yourself that 2 marks as a bonus, right? Then equipment that you need to use, computer, printer, punch. You know what is a punch? You know, have you seen it before? That thing I'm using to put a hole, right? On papers. Then calculator, you need a calculator because you need to calculate the percentage, right? Okay. Then consumables, you know what is consumables? These are the things you mostly use in computers or paper stationaries that can be make use of, right? You have stationery, toner for printers, newspapers, and magazines, then services, internet, business, community, or whatever, printing. Yeah, those things are not so much. Those are not things that is gonna bug you, right? So I'm happy this thing is moving on, right? It's not creating problem. Okay, now the instructions, right? The instructions, right? You got instruction for the task, right? Subtask 1. You have investigation on existing businesses. This is what I said. The first task that you need to do, you must go out and investigate. Now we are sending you out to be like investigators, right? But not CIA, not KGB or the Mosaic, right? Okay. Now The total marks for that is 38 marks. That's younger. Look at it. 38 marks is a lot, right? 120 minutes, that is the time allocated approximately if you are to be doing it in the class or in the simulation room. You mustn't exceed that. 120 minutes, how many hours? 2 hours, right? Okay. So here it goes. In your own time, right? Students must investigate existing entrepreneurial businesses within the scope of their vocational, right? Then vocational information technology or whatever. Office admin, you are doing the management here. It's still within the scope. Don't worry. If you don't say management, then don't get worried, right? It's within the scope of your vocational study here. So then the gathered information must include, right, a list of three related stroke relevant entrepreneurial businesses within the vocational study. So what you need to do is you go out, you identify three different businesses, not the same business, right? Don't say identify two hairdressing salon. They are more or less the same, right? For example, you say hairdressing salon, you can say, okay, garage where they washing cars or whatever, right? Washing bay. Then you can identify what else again? Maybe tax shop, it's a business, right? Okay. Now you need to identify such, you give the names, right? So the way you're gonna present it in terms of the presentation is discretionary. You know what I mean by discretionary? I'm gonna give you two options. One, you can put it in columns: business A, business B, business C, right? Or you say, let me first of all present all the data for business A, then later you go to business B, thereafter you go to business C. Right. Okay. These are the things that are required. Listen, focus, focus. Right. A list of three businesses, we talk about that. You just give the names. If you are able to give three names correctly, right, you got 3 months. Don't go and give the names of fictitious business that doesn't exist. Do you hear? And those students, they are fond of doing that. The other day, there was a question of such. Students were required to name the most successful, about 10 most successful business people in South Africa. Some people were naming people that I don't know about. We Google it, we couldn't even see those people in the Google space. Right? So you must be very careful, right? When you are doing your stuff, it must be factual, it must be real. Right? Then a description of three different products provided and or service. Okay, right? The identified businesses, right? I say first of all, you identify the names. Then you need to provide the type of services or product being produced or being sold by the business or the services being rendered by the business. Does it make sense to you? Right. You just go to the business, then you can look around. Sometimes you don't need to ask. You see what the business is doing, then you write down. Right. Then thereafter, if you are able to do that correctly, 2 months each. For the three businesses, you score yourself 6 marks, right? 6 over 38 plus 3 marks. That is 11. You see, you are moving. It's very easy to pass this paper, right? This task is easy. You can easily pass it. You can even get 80% on this stuff, 85, 90. It's very easy. Depends on how dedicated you are and how committed you are, right? You must put in your best. Then, two regulatory bodies and legal registration requirements necessary for the identified businesses. What do we mean by regulatory body? Sometimes you see some of the businesses, before they are allowed to operate, they must be a member. They must be affiliated. Let me use this language. They need to be affiliated to a certain regulatory body. Right. So if you Perhaps you identify such business, then you must as well tell us the type of regulatory body that that business belongs to. For example, electricity, right? People that are into electrical work, right? They need to be registered, right? You cannot just wake up from slumber and start running an electrical business. You need to be affiliated. Otherwise, you go and burn people's houses, right? You can even electrocute yourself, right? You know what I mean by electrocution? You shock yourself. So you need to be, your conduct needs to be moderated, needs to be regulated. Right. For example, if you are a nurse, medical business, you can even identify that if you have somebody that is having a small clinic, yeah, it's a business. Before you are allowed, hello, focus. Before you can be allowed to run that type of business, you must be registered. You must be part of a health practitioner society of South Africa, something like that. They got a kind of regulatory body of such. Right. Now let's talk about the regulatory. Hello, the legislation, the legal registration. For example, you can talk about SaaS. A business that is registered needs to have what we call certificate of incorporation, right? So that gives the business that legal status to practice. That is what we are talking about. Then another type of legal registration that we can talk about is being registered with SaaS, right? It's a kind of uh, it's a kind of indulgence that can give a legal status to that business. If you are not registered with SaaS, you are not, if you are illegal, you must get registered with SaaS so that you pay your tax, you pay your dues to the government. Right. So a business that is not registered with SaaS, I mean, is illegal. Right? That business is sabotaging the state. And if that business is caught, the owner of that business is caught, can go to jail. There was a medical doctor in Kimberley. That guy was operating, was not paying tax. He was trying to, no, he was unpatriotic. So when they got hold of him, the wrath of the law got hold of him, he was sentenced to jail, to prison. I think it's about 9 months, right? And a fine, and an option of a fine. You see, so you can't run away from it. You need to pay tax, right? You see, these are one of the regulations in running a business in any country. You must make sure that you abide, you comply, right? Then listen, then we say description in terms of the product or services, characteristics, and location of what competitors. You know what we mean by competitors? A competitor. Business offering the same services or product, right? With the same business. They are competitors, competing, eating from the same pot. You understand what I mean? For example, now if I bring in, let me say 2 liters of Coke, right? How many of you here now? One, two, three, four, five, right? I say, okay, you're gonna share it among yourself, right? Let's say along the line, two of you say, no, I'm going home. I'm not gonna be part of this. So the rest 4 people are gonna be happy because now they've got more to eat. What if I bring in some other guys to share with you? Some of you are going to be cross because the portion that is coming to you now will be much more less, right? Because of competition, right? So we need to know, perhaps you need to identify the competitor to that business, to those businesses you've identified. We need to know the proximity. You know what I mean by proximity? Nearness. We want to see if it is close because the more closer they are to a business, the more dangerous they be in terms of the competition. Right? If they are far away, you see, there's a little bit of a space, a distance in between. Okay, so that business still have a wide room, right? In terms of the geographical location of the target market. But if they are concentrated in one place, the competition becomes much more stiffer, right? So we want you to tell us the location of the competitors, right, of one of the businesses identified. Then, listen here now. We are not saying that you must tell us the competitors of the three businesses of one of the businesses identified. Right. Then date on which one of the businesses was established. Did you see now? We are streaming it down. We are not talking about three businesses again. Right? Right from here now. You see, one of the identified businesses. Note. Then here again, date on which one of the businesses was established or launched. So try to look for the date. You can ask the owner, say, when did you start doing this business? Then they're gonna tell you. Does it make sense to you? Right. It's very interesting. I love it. I hope this one. Yeah. Yeah. Individually. There is nothing like a group work. Right? It's easy. Okay, now you need to as well describe how the vocational field is applied in the identified fields. What are we trying to talk about here now? You see, you are studying, right, vocational subject or career. There are a lot of vocational study subject you are doing here. You're doing entrepreneurship, business management, operations management, right? Financial management, right? Okay. You see, each of these three, there are a lot of stuff that you are doing that are being applied outside, practically. For example, when we talk about entrepreneurship, if you are a business person, you should know how to calculate your cost price. You should know how to formulate your selling price. You should know, we are teaching you here about cost of sales, right? Income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and these are the things that a business person is facing. These are the things that they are doing in order for them to be able to manage finances, which you have been taught. So that those are the kind of stuff they are referring to here. Okay, when you go to management practice, what are you learning there? How to manage people, right? How to manage resources, right? Of which a business owner as well needs to know how to manage people. Not only customers, perhaps there are some of the businesses that got employee. So if you don't know how to manage your employee, what is going to happen? They're going to leave. And employees are one of the greatest asset of a business, right? Okay, that is that. What are you being taught in operations management? How to manage the operational activities of a business. So whatever we are teaching you there, here, these different aspects of what you are learning here, then you have to state it how it applies in the business that you've identified. Then motivation. Look here. A description of the target market. You know what is a target market? Target market, right? Who is buying from you or who is buying from them, right? They know they're gonna tell you, say, these are the type of people that always come here to buy their product. Then you describe them, right? If it is possible, you need to talk right about their profile, demographic profile in terms of where they live, right? If it is possible for you to know their age or their level of education or their level of income, right? All those kind of stuff. Their occupation, as the case may be, then those things needs to be reflected to describe the profile of the target market, right? Then motivation on why this entrepreneur, the owner, started the business. Perhaps you're going to ask the owner, say, what actually motivates you to start this business? There are a lot of businesses. Yeah. Okay. My business. Okay. What really motivated me, one of it was that there was no source of income for me. So I needed to generate income for myself. And I didn't have paper that would qualify me, enable me to get a job, a paid job, right? So for me not to, I need to survive, right? So that was what really motivated me. Yeah. Because behind anything, there must be a motivating factor. There must be something that drives you or that is driving you to do something. So it was one of them, right? My own was for survival. I needed to survive. So I had to do something, yeah, to survive. Otherwise, how will I, who is going to give me food? Nobody. And, yeah, and I need to pay my rent. Where will I get the money? Right. Okay, guys, listen. Wait. Remember, I'm gonna put this thing, right? Upload it for other students. Right. So be patient. Let me finish the first task, task one. Then you need to establish that by asking the owner of the business, then description of the business 5-year plan and how it is intended to be achieved. Then you can ask the business owner. You say, perhaps I know you are somebody that is eager to grow, right? In 5 years' time, where will you expect this business to be? Then they will explain to you, right? So then you do that. Thereafter, what do you need to do? You need to write what we call in an investigative report. You write a report. So how will you structure that report? Right? Introduction, obviously, you need to state the purpose. Then the body, the subheading, right? It's depending on your findings. Then the conclusion, stating the value of the investigation. So then, guys, we need a kind of evidence. We don't want a situation whereby you sit at home, you start formulating things, then you bring it here, you say, I've done my investigative research. All right? Because you are going to learn a lot from this exercise. One, perhaps you are somebody that is shy, you don't know how to talk to people, how to ask questions. This one will give you a sort of exposure, right? Besides the knowledge, there's a kind of a social component a benefit that you are going to get from here as well. So, guys, if you could allow me to explain the task two, that would be great. Right? Let me see. Okay, tomorrow I will explain task two, right? Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Good.